Hey Hannah, how are
Hi.
you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be talking with you today and to hear your story. Where are you calling us from?
So I live in Del Rio, Texas, which is
Okay.
right on the Mexican border. So Mexico's like 2 miles away from my house. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, nice. Is it warm there right now?
We're having a bit of a cold week, which is unusual and a bit depressing, but yeah, normally it is. It's going to be my first Christmas here, so I'm getting ready for like Christmas and Thanksgiving in the 100 degrees
Yeah,
heat.
I know. I was like, because I live in California, but I grew up on the East Coast, and so my first Christmas here, where it like wasn't snowy or cold, I was like, this doesn't quite feel like Christmas. Weird.
Yeah, my husband's from Boston, so we were there last year. So we had all of the snow experience, and now it's just going to be inflatable snowmen in the sun.
The sunglasses
Yeah.
on. Well, awesome. Well, why don't we just kind of like start by you sharing your story? I love to hear that. And yeah, maybe just walk us through like what were you doing in your life before, you found Write Your Way to Freedom, and then kind of how you found it, what the first few, like the first little bit looked like, and then bringing us up to today.
Yeah,
So,
so I can't remember exactly when I bought the course, but it's been at least 2 years. I think it was 2020, but it might have been the end of 2019.
mhm,
So I was a divorce attorney. I'd been to
mhm,
law school, and then practiced for 4 or 5 years.
mhm,
And then I married an American who was stationed over in England. And it came up that his time in England was up. So we had to decide if he was going to leave and we'd continue with my job, or if I would leave and we'd come over to the States. Um,
uh-huh.
and I wasn't in love with what I was doing. I'd always had this niggling feeling at the back of my mind, which I just tried to push down and ignore, that I couldn't be a lawyer for the next 60 years of my life and work in an office. And just something, even at school, something didn't feel right. But it's kind of
Mm,
awkward when you've thrown all that money into it to put your hand up and step away.
gosh,
So
yes.
I was just going through the motions, and this just seemed like a giant permission slip to
Yeah.
say, actually, what an excuse to use the fact that I'm actually leaving the country, to give all that up, and start doing what I want to do.
Oh
So
my God. I love how you called it a giant permission slip. That must have been like, oh.
yeah, because
Felt
even
so
at the
good.
time, talking to people, I didn't tell people that I wanted to become a copywriter or a
Mhm,
writer. It was, we would just talk about the fact that we were leaving and all of
mhm,
that stuff. And it seemed just like that was the excuse. And I couldn't
mhm.
practice law. I didn't want to do the bar here. So I was kind of giving myself permission to do what I wanted to do, but there was still some kind of nervousness about actually admitting that I wanted to do something
Yeah.
creative and be a writer, compared to
Mhm.
getting a
Law.
normal 9 to 5 job. Yeah.
Yes. And because being a lawyer is like super intense. And it has the reputation of like, yes, it's intense, but you earn great money. And but sometimes I don't know, like it's just, especially a divorce attorney, I would imagine that's extra intense.
Yeah, it was just a lot of stress and pressure,
Mhm.
and um like
Long hours.
codependence on clients. Yeah, long hours. I would just lay in bed at night thinking about all my clients. Like, you can give them the advice, but you can't go home with them and like live
Yeah.
their lives for them. So it was just unsustainable, um,
Uh,
and not fun, and just really stressful, and not worth all of the money and
uh-huh.
kind of identity stuff that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then you're moving to the States. You have purchased Right Your Way to Freedom at this point?
Yeah, so I bought it, I think it was about 6 months before we were leaving. So I
Mm-hmm.
saw a couple of Instagram ads,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then did the mini challenge, and then was just hooked, and just something sort of lit up inside me, and I just didn't let myself. I kept coming back to it. bought it, didn't tell my husband how much it cost for probably like 2 months.
And then dug into the work.
Yeah.
And you got your clients pretty soon after, right? Your first
Yeah, so
client.
I was practicing as a lawyer, and I was writing in evenings and weekends for people. So it was kind of full on. And then the momentum kind of just built up from there. So by the time we actually came to the States, I had my website done and I had a couple of clients. So it was just so comforting that I wasn't just coming and doing absolutely nothing with my day. Like I had the business side kind of up and running.
Nice. And so what did that look like at first? Like, how'd you get your first few clients? Were you writing in the legal niche?
Yeah, so I've always written for lawyers because it just seemed, I guess, just familiar. Like it didn't seem that much of a reach to do, like writing and all the entrepreneur stuff was really new to me. So to stick with law seemed like a comfort level in some ways. So I've always written for law firms, and I got my first clients on Upwork. So there was one lady in Australia who was so nice, and she didn't know this was my first project, but I kind of just wrote a really excited email to her on Upwork, like, I love your website, I'd love to write for you, I'm so excited about this, and she went for it. So that became like a regular, I think I did 3 or 4 a month for her. We went off Upwork after maybe 6 months or so, and she became like a regular client, which was nice. And then a couple of other people became regulars from Upwork as well, which wasn't, I think I increased my prices each time I got someone new. But the first blog I wrote for that lady in Australia was maybe like $80 a blog. But even that just blew my mind that someone was paying me to write a blog for them. Like that was so foreign. Even like 3 months ago, the idea that someone would pay me just to sit down in my pajamas and write a blog for them was so crazy. So that was just the fact that that happened made everything that came after so much easier, just as that example.
I remember that feeling. That's a big feeling, you know, for a lot of people when they get paid the first time. You're like, I'm getting paid to write? Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, because I think before that, it's all just the theory and the fantasy. So you can watch all the videos in the course and hear the success stories. But until it's actually tangible money in your bank account, there's always going to be that doubt there. Like, is this really going to happen? Are the clients actually out there?
And what's it like writing for lawyers or law firms?
So I niched down. I knew that I didn't want to write for big corporate law firms, just not my personality type. I know there are other people in the group that do and probably make more money than I do doing that. But that's just, I didn't want to work for firms with like hundreds of partners. So I chose a niche, which was entrepreneurial lawyers who have started their own boutique firm. Because they've done the corporate stuff like me and chose to step away from it and are doing things their own way. They've started their own business. So I felt like we could connect on the entrepreneur level. And they're all just really cool, interesting people. And I'm friends with some of them, which is nice. And it's just, it's a bit difficult because the law in each state's different. So it's very research heavy. Just because I've practiced divorce doesn't actually help me in real life writing about what is the law in Australia and like different states. So it's still research heavy, but yeah.
No, that makes sense because I mean, I'm in the health and wellness space. And even though, I don't know, I have some science background, I still have to like research everything and read everything. It's not just like sitting right there top of mind. You can't just like know. I don't know. It's all like, you gotta like researching for sure. So I'm sure that serves you well. I'm curious, like, how did you overcome, or did you have any fears at the beginning that like maybe this wouldn't work? You kind of touched on that. And if so, how did you overcome some of those fears?
Yeah, I think I still have some fears now, just going in different directions that I have, and whether like sometimes I turn down clients and then I will second guess whether that was the right thing to have done, or even with pricing. Like if it's a big website project, I'm always trying to increase my prices to get to where I want to be. But then as soon as I send that email, I'll have fear, like, oh my God, that was too much. They're not going to want to pay that. What have I done? I've ruined the whole relationship now. And then it's completely fine. So I would say the fear never really goes away. I don't know if you feel the same with things that you're launching, and like doing your podcast and stuff. I think it's just, there are things you can do to make the fear feel smaller, or get used to living side by side. But I think if you're building a business trying to not have any fear, then it's going to be a pretty stressful and data-driven life.
Or yeah, or if you're waiting for the fear to go away to like make that next move, you're gonna be waiting a long time. Because in my experience, it's the action that makes the fear smaller. You know what I mean? It's the like doing it scared, and then you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And you're 100% right. Like every iteration of my business, every time I've like changed directions or like grown in a different way, it just pops back up. It's the same thing, different, looks a little different. And yeah, it's just about kind of like, I love how you said having it side by side, because I kind of imagine just like acknowledging it, being like, that's there, but we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a practice, right? Like, kind of, like every time you do it, when it comes up, it's like, okay, that's that fear. We've seen this before. We're going to keep going, you know?
Yeah. I'm really big on meditating. So I try and meditate every morning, and then just having that like awareness of, okay, it's here, but it's not all of me. It's just come to the party and showed its head for today is really useful. And yeah, the gratitude practice, kind of everything that you talk about in the first mindset module is just so useful to keep going back to. And even sometimes when I'm doing my gratitude, I'll just think about the course and the community and everything that's there. It's just, you can be scared, and then also remember all of this support and people who are going through the same thing as you. And it just makes it more manageable.
100%. And I think that's like the biggest power, like one of the most powerful things about getting connected with like the community and other people like on the same path as you, is you just really realize you're not alone. And like knowing that it makes everything, like you said, manageable. So, those are such good answers. So somebody had submitted the question. They were curious, in what ways did law school prepare you to be a copywriter?
So I would say in discovery calls, lawyers love it when I talk about like practical experiences that I've had with clients. So if I can say that I've picked up the phone to someone whose mum has just passed away and they need to go through probate and they're in tears and they don't know where to start. And then if I were to write a blog about, okay, what are your first steps if that happens to you? The fact that I've actually spoken to people in that situation is really useful. The same with like divorce stuff. And so I think more than law school, it's actually the practicing law that has been really useful. So I don't know if that person has been a paralegal or done an internship or even some free work experience. Just the fact that you can talk to the people that you're writing blogs for or websites for on their level in their own words is so useful.
Yeah, it's the putting yourself in their shoes, right? It's like living through an experience, which grows your empathy for them, which allows you to write in a more connected way, right? Which is like ultimately what I think makes like for really powerful copy. This person, they mentioned that they were a law school grad as well, so they were curious.
Yeah, but I think you could do that for any niche. Like if you wanted to write about fashion, Like, is there a personal stylist that you could just shadow for free for the day? And then you can actually talk to people like, oh, I've helped a specific person who thinks they're feeling fat or wanted to find a more comfortable work clothes because they're bored of wearing a suit. Like, I think people on discovery calls love stories, personal stories. So if you can actually bring up that you've had that experience and helped that person through, and that you're wanting to do the same in your writing, I think that's huge.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Because I mean, we all know that storytelling helps, right? With like connecting and really solidifying like the imagery in someone's mind. And it's kind of about like showing and not just like telling them, right? And so when you have those experiences, it's like, I bet that's really powerful. Yeah. Yeah, it goes across any niches. I would say I feel like law school probably, do you guys do a lot of research in law school? Like a lot of reading?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I was trying to think about law school, but I feel like a lot of the work I've done over the last 2 years has been forgetting everything that law school has taught me, like perfectionism and feeling like an imposter and all of the negative stuff. So, yeah.
Yes. I can see that because it's very like being a lawyer, as far as I understand, is very entrenched in a lot of like old school, like employee beliefs, right? It's like heavily hourly work. Like even if you make great money, it's still based in your time. Yeah, I can see the perfectionism, just like working your freaking butt off.
Yeah, I still feel guilty if some days I work like 2 hours a day and then I'm still sat there feeling guilty, even though I'm doing what I want to do for the rest of the day. And that definitely comes from like the value of what you do comes from how many hours you charge for it. So if I were to do something at law school that took me an hour, like I would have failed, or people would just think I'm insane. So that's not
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you touched on that. That's like a big mindset thing that was a struggle for me because it took me so long, for years. I sat in front of the computer from 9 to 5, and then I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not even why I started doing this. Like, I chose it for a different reason, but I still like have all the guilt that comes with like people telling you that your value is based in your productivity, and your productivity is how long you sit down in front of a computer or whatever it is that you're doing. And it's just like, that's a big one.
Yeah, because clients don't know. You never, at no point tell a client whether something's taken you 30 minutes or 30 hours. As long as you tried your best and delivered them what they need to, it's just so irrelevant. But I think in a lot of schools like law school, or if it's like more corporate direction, it's just the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, I so feel that one. So the last question that was submitted, and then I want to talk about kind of like what your whole business looks like now, because you do a lot of things, is what got you hitting 10K months? And was it getting super specific at what you do and streamlining your business, or was it something else? I think they just want to know like how you got there.
Yeah, so I think getting specific on who I wanted to work with, like I was talking about the entrepreneurial lawyers, I think if you have a really strong image in your mind of who your ideal client is, it's really helpful, because it helps them stop and think, oh my God, she's talking to me, like I need this. And also I think it builds a good connection when you're on calls, from my point of view as well. If I know that they fit into that niche, I'm just automatically more excited and like looking forward to talk to them. And then you have a more like fun and productive discovery call, I think, rather than wondering like, who's it going to be and do they really need me? But also I think I've kind of pivoted a lot. So I used to hate social media when I started. I just liked long form. If you can say something in 3 words, I'll say it in 25. I just liked doing longer blogs. And so I really struggled with social media. But then I've had a couple of really nice clients who I've done YouTube video scripts for, which I kind of just thought maybe I'll play with this and see what happens. And then I had a really nice guy. It started off, he wanted help with his TikTok account, which I thought sounded fun.
Oh,
yeah. So I just came up with the titles and the hashtags and just a little blurb about what he should talk about. It was kind of like blog titles. So he wasn't dancing or anything. He'd just sit behind his desk and answer these questions that I would give him the titles for. And that was so much fun. And that led to, I then started writing blogs for him and YouTube videos, and that kind of spiraled. So I think if I'd have just said, TikTok's weird, I don't know anything about that, it wouldn't. He eventually started paying me, I think like $3,000 a month from him. Kind of allowing that to open up a little bit and not getting too specific about the type of copy that I wanted to do helped that grow.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good point, because I think sometimes, you know, just like walking through the open doors, the things that are like in front of you where you're like, I'll give this a try. And because sometimes it surprises you and you end up thinking, I mean, I've been so surprised so many times where I'll like try something that I think I'm going to love and I hate it. Or I try something that I think I'm going to hate and I'm like, ooh, this is actually really fun.
Yeah. And then I think not beating yourself up too much if it doesn't work out as well, because there's been loads of examples, the opposite, where I thought I've tried something new just to see what happens and it's gone terribly. But then I think to just accept that happens sometimes, and you still have to just be brave and try new things, and not to then say, okay, this is a sign that I should stay in my lane, and sort of, get down on yourself about it for the next 6 months.
Listen, that's like one of the best things about this, because for me anyway, I always got bored, you know, always in work. And there's just so many different ways that you can kind of make this business work for you. And like copywriting one day might even only be part of it. And I know that's like actually what's been true for you, because now you're doing all kinds of other things. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what your business looks like today?
So I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I think the boredom is a big factor, and just trying new things. So what do I do? So I was doing a lot of social media for lawyers, like just giving them the TikTok titles and YouTube videos. And then I noticed a lot of them weren't then posting. So they were paying me all this money to come up with the titles for them. And then it would take them like 6 months to actually record the video. And then I would ask them, do you still want me? Like, I don't mind, like, don't feel bad about firing me. I don't want to take all your money if you're not going to use it. And they were certain that they saw the benefits of social media and they wanted to continue. It was, they didn't have enough time. They were too busy. They wanted to record it, but they weren't getting around to it. And then I sort of dug a bit deeper, and a lot of it is being visible. Like, they were worried, the things we've talked about law school, perfectionism. Like one lady I work with, she's so beautiful. She's got big curly hair, and she's like, if one curl is out of place, then I can't record that day. And it's just like, you are like drop dead gorgeous, and none of your clients who are going through like divorce situations care about your curls. So, and I think it's just about, you know, what other people are going to think about lawyers on TikTok, what their competitors will think. So I started coaching with them. So I just have like 30-minute calls or hour calls, and we'll just talk about this sort of stuff, about what's coming up for them, why they aren't, sort of what their goals are, what they want to get out of it, and why they're not just sitting down behind their desk and recording. So a lot of what I talk about is what I've learned from your mindset, everything that you talk about, being an entrepreneur, I invested in some coaching as well. So it's kind of, we've been playing with it in a couple of other areas that I'm in. And then I also started a podcast, which is about mindfulness and mental health for lawyers. Just talking about like burnout and all of that stuff, because there's a lot of us out there, so it's just kind of bringing the community together and finding a common place that we can talk about this sort of stuff. But even with the podcast, like having the copywriting has been so useful for marketing it and doing the show notes and talking about it on social media. Even if I'm not doing copywriting full time, everything that I've learned in Write Your Way to Freedom has helped me sort of have the confidence that I can find my people and that they'll come, and talking to them in their own language. And yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So you're like a mindset coach for lawyers now.
Yeah, I've never said it like that, but I guess so. Yeah.
Amazing. I know they need it. So actually it's very random, but it's like keeps coming up. So I feel like I should mention it. Because this might be useful for you. I actually met a guy at one of the masterminds I was at multiple times. He was just like a really cool dude. He was actually doing the like recording it. He was doing the like videography, and he specifically does the like video for lawyers. So they come up with their plan or whatever, like you, and then he shows up once a month for like an hour, and then just makes them record all their TikToks, all their Instagram posts, and then like cuts it into like pieces for them, because he's like, they just don't have time and they get nervous and they want it to look super professional.
Yeah.
And so it's great. So I just like go, not like, I have like and that's not all he does. He like really loves like other creative work, but this is like great for paying the bills, right? And so he's like, I just have 4 days a month that I go to like 10 different lawyers, and we just like knock out videos. And then I just like, so I don't know, might be the kind of guy you're looking to pair with for some.
No, definitely give me his information. I think they would love that. It's having something in the diary then that an actual human being is turning up to my office. So I'm going to get the recordings.
And that's the other thing he says. He's like, for some of them, it's just the fact that I'm like, I'm here and I've got my video and you paid me, so we're going to get this done. And so I don't know. I just feel like he's in LA though. So, and I don't, you might need people in different places, but those kinds of people are out there doing things like that too. So that's very, very interesting. I love what you're doing. I just love that you've made this like your own, you've really like made this your own story, your own thing. And it's been such a nice, I don't know, I guess like marriage of like marketing and creativity, but like leaning on your like previous work experience. And so thank you for sharing with us.
No, you're welcome.
I would love to wrap up, because it's my favorite question to ask, is to ask if you were to kind of go back in time and have a little chat with you, younger you, 2 years ago you, right when you kind of like fought Write Your Way to Freedom and were probably having like the most doubts about everything, and just about being a copywriter and an entrepreneur and everything like that, like what would you tell yourself?
I think that you literally can't fail if you just keep trying. So I like to say failure is just feedback. So I've had so many like pure weeks where I'm sending out like 200 cold emails and then not hearing one back, or I've sent website copy to people and felt like, oh my God, they're gonna die when they read this, like I'm obsessed with it. It's so good. And then they reply like, it's good, but not exactly what I was thinking. Let's relook at it. And it's just, how can you use some of the more not so positive, amazing times as feedback to then maybe like change what you're offering, or maybe change a couple of words in your email, or change how you ask questions with a client to find out exactly what they are looking for, and not just assume. So just using everything as an opportunity to get feedback. And then if you just keep doing that with every single experience, you literally cannot fail. And even now that I'm not doing copywriting full time, like that's not failure either. The skills and knowledge and experience of being in the course led me to what I'm doing now. So it's not failure that I'm not running 100% copywriting business. It's just how can it keep changing? And yeah, because you have to expect that you're going to get clients that you don't jam with, and you're going to get unanswered cold emails, and people are going to reply telling you that you're annoying or blocked or whatever it is. And it's just, how can you use all of that?
Yeah, it's that old
school, maybe look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that old school mindset that tells us that it's a success if you like go to school for a particular thing and then like execute on that particular thing, right? But the entrepreneurial path is like you're always like building on the next thing, even if you can't see what that is. And sometimes I joke, I'm like, copywriting is kind of like the gateway drug to like entrepreneurship, because it's just like can lead you to so many other paths. And I love what you said, that you literally can't fail if you just keep trying, because it's all building on itself. It's just hard to see when you're especially when you're first starting out. So there was so much wisdom in this. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. I've had so much fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the community. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.